Between 13th and 30 July, pressure from Combined Operations Headquarters, RAF Fighter Command, Naval Intelligence, Canadian Army generals, and perhaps Winston Churchill led to the revival of Operation Rutter under a new code name, Jubilee. The plan for Jubilee was essentially the Rutter plan, except that additional landing craft allowed the planners to substitute experienced Royal Marine and Army commandos for the paratroopers, greatly increasing the odds of suppressing the coastal batteries on the flanks. Combined Operations completed the new plan on 31 July. The presence of mechanized troops at Amiens, who could arrive within 5 hours of the landing, meant that the Rutter decision to begin re-embarking the troops at 1100 hours remained part of the new plan. There's no evidence in the discussion of either Rutter or Jubilee of concern about the fact that the tactical objectives outlined when the troops were to be ashore for 11 hours were not changed, even though the raid was now to last just 5 or 6 hours. This suggests that specific tactical objectives were no longer as important as simply getting on and off the beach. Winston Churchill had decided to visit Moscow to explain to Stalin why there would not be a second front in 1942. Instead, Torch, the invasion of North Africa, would take place in November. While on his way to Moscow, Churchill repeatedly sought information on the Dieppe Raid, so he would have something positive to tell Stalin. We now need to decide whether the decision to remount the raid was reasonable from the perspective of Churchill's August visit to Moscow, the Chiefs of Staff, Combined Operations Headquarters, Fighter Command, the Navy, the Canadian Army, Naval Intelligence. On 17 August, the decision to embark the troops must be made, as they must sail at 1800 hours on 18 August. The troops recalled from leave or battalion quarters will be briefed on board ship. The responsible authorities, including General Roberts, have in theory a last opportunity to go or cancel the raid. On the basis of the information available on 17 August, would you go or cancel? At 0347 hours on 19 August, Naval Group 5, headed for Yellow Beach, Berneval, ran into a German coastal convoy. 0 hour is 4:50 on the flanks, 5:20 on the main beach. It must be assumed that operational surprise is lost. What options, if any, exist for the force commanders on the headquarters ship at this point? Due to the normal friction of war, the Royal Regiment of Canada was 17 minutes late at Blue Beach, and the first signs of dawn were appearing. It must be assumed from the gunfire to the east that tactical surprise at Blue Beach is lost. Does Lieutenant Colonel Cato have any options? The landings at Green Beach, Pourville by the South Saskatchewan Regiment and the Queen's Own Cameron Highlanders of Canada from Winnipeg are successful, and both battalions begin the advance outlined in their orders. The South Sasks, lacking significant fire support, use most of their mortar bombs in the attack but fail to reach the western headland. The Camerons proceed inland without meeting resistance beyond the beach. Their plan calls for the Camerons to capture and destroy an airfield 5 miles south of Dieppe with the support of tanks of the Calgary Regiment, who are supposed to advance through Dieppe. Given the presence of 10 SS Panzer Division 5 hours or less away, does this make any sense? What alternate use might have been made of the Camerons? The plan requires Les Fusiliers Montréal to land as soon as the town has been captured and act as a rear guard, occupying the inner perimeter to cover the final withdrawal. At 0630 hours, General Roberts, who lacks reliable information on what is happening on the smoke-shrouded beaches must decide whether to commit the FMRs. What should Roberts do? Should he commit the Fusiliers Montréal? On the main beach, at Puy, and on the headland between Dieppe and Pourville, few German machine gun, mortar, or artillery positions are neutralized, even temporarily. Despite heroic efforts, neither the 5 squadrons of Hurricanes nor the medium bombers are able to provide effective support. The Canadians, with a few heroic exceptions, are unable to advance beyond the beaches. The Camerons begin their withdrawal at 0930 hours as no tanks are seen and enemy reinforcements are arriving. Elsewhere, it is simply a question of surviving until the evacuation begins. An attempt to advance the evacuation timing to 10:30 hours instead of 1100 hours could not be carried out because of the RAF plan to cover the withdrawal. Canadian casualties killed, wounded, and missing were 3,367, more than 50% of those who landed. British losses, including 550 naval casualties, totaled 818. The casualties suffered in the Dieppe Raid and the failure to achieve tactical objectives were widely and accurately reported at the time. Much positive spin about individual heroes was presented, but it was evident that for 2nd Canadian Division, the raid was a disaster. The RAF greatly exaggerated the losses suffered by the Luftwaffe, but they argued that the Dieppe Raid was a great success for Fighter Command, which had maintained air superiority over the beaches and in the withdrawal. The Royal Navy was equally pleased with its performance. They had landed the troops in the correct place at more or less the correct time, supported them while ashore, and conducted a withdrawal under fire, returning to the UK with minimal losses. The Royal Marine Commando assigned to seize the Enigma codebooks was unable to enter the harbour, so if this was a major reason for Jubilee, the raid was clearly a failure. Combined Operations Headquarters believed that many practical lessons had been learned and valuable experience gained. But could such lessons have been learned in less costly ways? So, was the Dieppe Raid a success or a failure? I look forward to hearing your views.